December 1949. While most of America celebrated the peace and prosperity of the post-war era, a sinister event was unfolding in the remote desert of Washington state. At the Hanford nuclear site, something unimaginable was happening. This wasn't an accident. It was a choice, a deliberate decision by the United States government to release a massive radioactive cloud, thousands of times more potent than the fallout from a nuclear test, directly onto its own people. Welcome to the darkest side of the Cold War, the Green Run. Why would a government poison its own citizens? The answer lies in the escalating paranoia of the Cold War. American intelligence was desperate to know how to detect Stalin's secret plutonium factories. They believed the Soviets were building an atomic arsenal in the vast, hidden landscapes of the USSR, and the Pentagon needed a way to spy on them from thousands of miles away. Their plan was audacious and chilling. If they could create their own radioactive plume and learn to track it, they could develop the technology to sniff out Soviet nuclear activity. So they decided to turn Hanford into a laboratory and the surrounding population into unknowing test subjects. The project was codenamed the Green Run, not because of the color of the fallout, but because the nuclear fuel they used was green, meaning it had only recently been irradiated and was dangerously potent. The scientists in charge, like Dr. Herbert Parker, were driven by a cold, analytical sense of national duty. To them, the risk to the environment and the local population was a justifiable price for national security. They waited for the perfect conditions, or rather the worst possible conditions for anyone living nearby. They needed the radiation to stay low, concentrated, and easy to track. So they chose a night with a strong thermal inversion, a weather phenomenon where a layer of warm air traps colder air near the ground. This would act like a lid, preventing the radioactive plume from dispersing into the upper atmosphere. On the night of December 2nd, 1949, they shut down the facility's safety filters, the scrubbers designed to capture radioactive particles, and unleashed the poison. Over the next 24 hours, a toxic cocktail of radioactive isotopes billowed from Hanford's massive smokestacks. The cloud contained nearly 8,000 curies of iodine-131, a dangerously radioactive substance that the human body mistakes for regular iodine and absorbs into the thyroid gland. Instead of rising harmlessly into the sky, the plume behaved exactly as the scientists had hoped. It hugged the ground, a dense, invisible river of poison that crawled along the Columbia River basin. It blanketed over 2,000 square miles of farms, pastures, and sleeping towns. It settled on the grass that cows would eat for breakfast and seeped into the water supply. There were no sirens, no warnings, no alarms for the families in the path of the cloud, like Sarah Miller hanging laundry outside her farmhouse. The only sign something was wrong was an unnatural metallic taste in the air and a strange, oily fog rolling down from the distant stacks. The poison was colorless, odorless, and state-sanctioned. As the invisible antagonist spread, another key player entered the scene. A modified B-29 bomber, a ghost observer flying low through the sickly vapor. Its mission was to chase the cloud, its sensors and filters gathering precious data for the Pentagon. On the ground, life went on. Children played outside. Farmers milked their cows, unknowingly collecting contaminated milk that would be delivered to homes and schools across the region. While military scientists celebrated the success of their experiment, the iodine-131 began its silent, insidious work inside the bodies of thousands of men, women, and children. The thyroid gland, a critical regulator of metabolism and growth, became ground zero. The radiation it absorbed would trigger a slow-motion catastrophe. For decades, the residents of the Hanford downwind area lived with a mysterious plague. They saw their families and neighbors riddled with thyroid cancer, miscarriages, birth defects, and a host of other debilitating illnesses. They called themselves downwinders, a community bound by shared suffering and unanswered questions. They pleaded with government officials for answers, but were met with denial and secrecy. The truth of what happened that December night was buried in top-secret documents, locked away from the very people it had condemned. The Green Run was just one of over a dozen intentional releases, but it was the largest and most dangerous. The government had treated its own people like a colony of lab rats in the name of winning the Cold War. It wasn't until 1986, nearly 40 years later, that the truth finally began to emerge. A journalist named Karen Dorn Steele, following a trail of declassified documents, uncovered the story of the Green Run. The revelations were explosive, confirming the community's worst fears. The government had knowingly and repeatedly sacrificed their health. The Green Run wasn't a technical error or an unavoidable accident. It was a cynical test of human resilience, a calculated experiment where American citizens were the guinea pigs. Today, Hanford remains one of the most contaminated places on Earth, a monumental challenge for cleanup crews. It stands as a silent monument to the terrifying price of supremacy and the secrets a government will keep. The story of the downwinders is a harrowing reminder that the pursuit of security can sometimes lead to the deepest betrayal. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history.